Coming up on Theater Talk.
Put on your Sunday clothes, there's lots of world out there. Get out the Brilliantine and Dime cigars.
Theater Talk is made possible in part by the CUNY TV Foundation. From New York City, this is Theater Talk. I'm Susan Haskins.
And I'm Michael Riedel of the New York Post, and I'm delighted to have, I think, my oldest friend in the profession, as we say.
Well,
years ago when I was, I think I was a freshman in college, and I grew up in Rochester, New York, and I went home from a school break to Rochester to Jiva Theater, and I saw a very fine play called Established Price. A lot of very good actors in it, and at the very end, this little old man came in and stole the play out from all of the other actors who'd been acting up a storm for 2 hours. And it was my Richard Seff, and I think I introduced myself to you.
You did.
And complimented you. I was your first fan.
You were, and I became your first fan.
When I started at Theater Week magazine.
Absolutely.
And you came in to write an article, I think, about Cheetah Rivera, and you walked into my office, and I thought, my God, I know you from Established Price and Jiva Theater.
Well, you changed my life because I had never written an article on theater or anything else, and now I'm a writer.
You are, which brings you to Theater Talk because you have a new book out, a novel called Take a Giant Step, A Romance in Radio, because you began as a radio actor. And of course you have another, a memoir when you were on the show a few years ago, still in print, called Supporting Player, My Life Upon the Wicked Stage. Delighted to have my good friend Dick Seff back to Theater Talk.
Thank you. I want to show you the power of Theater Talk.
Oh, all right, good.
Oh, please.
I will. Mary Louise Wilson and I and Christine Ebersole shared that show of Theater Talk.
Right, when you first came on, they were the segment, I think.
They were the
you.
segment before me, and Mary Louise Wilson has gone on to win the Richard Seff Award.
Yes, the prestigious Richard Seff Award at Actors Equity.
Yes.
Antoinette Perry, Oscar, and the Richard Seff Award.
Right.
Yeah.
And the book, which is now 6 years old since it was published, is still selling slowly but consistently. And that's just because we were so powerfully effective on that program.
Good.
Word of mouth has spread. But I watched it, and I don't look terribly different. I just sound different. You both look better.
Thank you.
I've aged, but I've lost my voice
Oh,
on the way to the theater.
Well, but speaking of your voice, I mean, you have a terrific voice, always a great voice, because you began as a kid in the radio business, as a radio actor, and this book takes us back to that time, your radio days, if you will.
Well, you might wonder why did I want to do that. The book is set in 1949, indeed, in radio.
And that's when you began?
That's when I began, 48, 49, right after college. Now, I wrote, this is something nobody knows, and I'm not sure I should say it, but I'm going to. In the summer of 1950, I was playing in Darkness at Noon on Broadway with Claude Rains. The play closed in June, and I knew it was going to reopen in September on the road with Edward G. Robinson, and I was one of the actors they asked back to do the tour. And I'd never been on the road, so I said sure. And I had the summer off with nothing to do, and I wasn't going to take any jobs because I had one in September. So I started to write this book, believe it or not, in the summer of 1950. And the reason I did was I had just had a radio experience that was very important to me at the time, and I started with that, and around it made up a story that was based on real life, but was fiction, kind of a roman à clef, because it included a character called Alice in the book, who's really based on a lovely actress who was a dear friend of mine, Dolores Sutton, and we'd had adventures together as beginners in radio. So I started the book, and I finished the book in the summer, but I didn't know what to do with it. I'd never written a book. I didn't have an agent. I didn't know any publishers. And we went into rehearsal, and I went off on the road for 9 months. And the book was in a little box. We used to type them on typewriters, remember them?
Yeah.
And they went into a shoebox kind of thing in the closet. And I swear to you, with God as my judge, that book sat there until 2 years ago. That's 50 years. I just forgot about it.
But you forgot about it completely.
Didn't know what to do with it, where to put it, who to give it to. So it just remained as something I did as a learning process. And I was about to throw it out because I'm cleaning up my closets. And I read it, and I rather liked it. I thought, it's funny. only it's become a period piece.
Right.
In 1950,
very
it was a
much, yeah.
contemporary novel,
Yeah, but right.
and rather a simple one. I thought, you know, this book has become so passé that it's absolutely
It's in.
avant-garde.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
All right. So, but take
So we
us,
got it published.
but take us back to those radio days. I mean, what was it like being an actor in radio? Was it like what we see in the Woody Allen movie, Radio Days?
A little,
Yeah.
a little,
Yeah.
and it was fun because you didn't have to wear makeup.
Right.
You didn't really have to make rounds except to 2 or 3 buildings in New York, CBS, NBC, and ABC, and they had casting directors who would see you, and you bring in your little tapes and things, recordings, and then they had live auditions as well, 6 or 8 months in advance, but still, you would get one. And eventually, you got calls to be on certain programs. And I got lucky one day and landed a job on a soap that was running,
What was the soap called?
The Brighter Day.
The what?
The Brighter Day.
The Brighter Day.
And it was sponsored by one of those ivory soap things. And it had been on for a year or two when I got into it because it was a running role that Jack Lemmon was playing, a part called Bruce Bigby, a young millionaire who was married to one of the girls in the story, the Dennis family. She was the sister of the leading lady. And I married Althea Dennis. I took over for Jack Lemmon. You didn't have to worry about what I looked like. We sort of sounded alike. And I was on it for several months when one day I came in. You never knew where the story was going. And one day I came in and I went in the script.
Yeah.
And Althea said, "Donnie, what's wrong? Have you got a cold again?" I said, no, I'm fine. And I knew they were going to kill me. And of course, that's exactly what they did.
What did they have you die of?
They had just some unnamed disease. It took 3 months to die. And I have a recording on an LP. Remember LPs? I have a recording, which I'm going to listen to tonight because I haven't heard it in 20 years. But I'm of my last day, the day I died. But anyway, it did
What
keep...
sound effects did they make when were you in the hospital bed or something?
No, I breathed a lot, you know.
Wheezed.
Wheezed and breathed. I expired very dignified
Tell us
manner.
though, what was it like? A sort of a rehearsal for a radio show. I mean, you had a director. They would say,
yes.
"Dick, we want you."
Edwin
to voice
Wolfe,
like
I
this."
remember he was about 80, but a kindly gentleman.
What were the rehearsals like? I mean, would you read them through, and the director would say,
Absolutely.
I mean, there's no blocking, but they would say, "I want you to say it this way."
No, they mostly talked in terms of stopwatches.
Really?
It's too long, we have to cut 3 words, you know.
That was it.
Because they had exactly a number of minutes before the commercial came on. And it was very easy. You really came on, I think, a half an hour before the airtime.
And did you memorize the scripts, or was you always just...
Nope, never mind memorizing. You read through them once or twice, but that's all. It was sort of embarrassing if you ever dropped it on the floor, you know, which I did once.
The rustling of leaves.
But it wasn't live. Was it live when you were doing it? Would you do
I don't
live
remember. It had to be live. You'd probably know more about that. I know the first televisions that we did, which came from radio, of
Yes.
course. In 1948, 49, we began to do television in New York, all live, truly live. And there is one moment in my television career, my early career, which I have used, changed slightly, but not the facts, in the book.
Yeah.
And that's when I landed a part on One Man's Family, which was a big hit in radio. And then they made a television series out of it. And I was hired to play a date, a boyfriend, a young boyfriend of the very young Mercedes McCambridge.
Oh, yeah. Who was,
Who was
another great voice.
Big radio star.
Yeah.
And this was live. And we decided to make me look a little older than I must have been all of 21. To make me look 22, they let me smoke. So I stood off in the wings to waiting for my entrance cue with the cigarette, and I put it down. I didn't want to enter smoking, so I put it down. And as I was about to enter, I noticed that the curtains were on fire. Literally, you know, the drapes around the door.
Yes.
So I entered and said, would you have some water in there? The artist, Mark Dean, who illustrated the novel, has done a drawing in which it looks like it's Chicago burning down. But it was a flame, which you could smell and
So
see, and they're fanning and watering, all while we're going on with our dialogue. That was live television.
Boy, you had to be really nimble and on your toes, though, with the...
Well, you also had to be very young, which I was. You could, but there were some older actors, so that anytime you got a job for $25, you were thrilled to death. because your rent was literally $87.50. So that was like enough for a month's rent, you know. That's all in there.
And what and without giving too much away of the plot, though, I mean, this is you take us through, you know, where radio is at its height, but then it begins to.
Oh God, there were 30 million radio sets and about 500,000 television sets.
Did careers end though as radio? As TV came into the being, I'm thinking of the silent movie stars who
Absolutely
were wonderful until they had to speak, and then they was
Same
in the
thing.
career.
They
It
could
happened,
only-
wonderful voices, but you put them in front of a camera, and
They could only act from the neck up. So yeah, some careers did end. However, that was the first of my 7 careers.
yes, because you were also an agent.
Well, and I've just been invited to join the Outer Critics Circle. I'm now a critic, which is supposed to be the actor's worst enemy. So I never know quite how to behave.
You hate
anymore.
yourself. You give yourself a bad review.
No, I'm a very, very compassionate critic.
All right, it's Take a Giant Step, a romance in radio by our good friend Richard Seff. Thanks for being our guest tonight on
Always a
Talk.
great pleasure.
Thank you. And name
I will,
that tune.
I won't send roses, and it ends, and roses suit you.
So I saw that show. I think I'm the only one left in New York who can say that.
Well, those of you who watch Theater Talk, I'm sure you know that song. It is from Jerry Herman's underappreciated show, Mac and Mabel, that really has one of the best scores of all time. And we are celebrating the music and lyrics of Jerry Herman tonight, are we not, Susan?
That's very good. And we are with our guest, Fred Barton, who is the leader of the 16-piece Fred Barton Orchestra, which is doing an evening celebrating Jerry Herman on Saturday, March 1st at the Michael Schimmel Center at Pace University.
Fred, I wanted to ask you, why an evening of Jerry Herman? Are we celebrating something of Jerry's, or has he always been a particular favorite of yours?
He's all of the above. He's always been a favorite of mine. You know, I saw Mac and Mabel when I was in high school, and it was put together by all of the same people who put together Hello, Dolly.
Gower Champion, Michael Stewart,
David Merrick. It was and Michael Stewart, who wrote the book to Hello, Dolly.
Fred has brought some terrific performers who are with him at his show coming up. You want to, I mean, can I introduce the first one?
Oh,
He's a
sure,
friend of mine.
absolutely.
You cannot, I'm telling you, you cannot do anything about Hello, Dolly without Leroy Reams. He directed Carol Channing in a number of revivals of the show. He is one of my favorite musical theater performers of all time. I saw him as a kid dancing on a quarter in 42nd Street.
Oh, I don't believe you. You were dancing along with him.
Everybody in the audience was dancing along
right.
with Leroy. That's how infectious this man is. So can we welcome to Theater Talk, Mr. Leroy Reams. Come on up. All right, now take it away, Leroy.
Yes.
And don't disappoint, please, will you?
So, Leroy, let's roll up our sleeves. We're going to give you a few songs from Hello, Dolly, with which Mr. Reams has a long association matched by none, except for maybe you know who. And this medley starts with some of the greatest chords ever written for the musical theater. Should we show them how it works?
You bet.
All right.
Barnaby, you and I are going to New York. Out there, there's a world outside of Yonkers. Way out there, beyond this hick town, Barnaby. There's a slick town, Barnaby. Out there, full of shine and full of sparkle. Close your eyes and see it glisten, Barnaby. Listen, Barnaby. Put on your Sunday clothes, there's lots of world out there. Get out the brilliantine and dime cigars. We're gonna find adventure in the evening air. Girls in white and a perfume night where the lights are bright as the stars. Put on your Sunday clothes, we're gonna ride through town in one of those new horse-drawn open cars. We'll see the shows at Delmonico's, and we'll close the town in a whirl, and we won't come home until we've kissed It only takes a moment for your eyes to meet, and then your heart knows in a moment you will never be alone again. I held her for an instant, but my arms felt sure and strong. It only takes a moment to be loved. A whole life long before the parade passes by. I'm gonna go and taste Saturday's high life before the parade passes by. I'm gonna get some life back into my life. I'm ready to move out in front. I've had enough of just passing by life with the rest of them, with the best of them. I'm gonna hold my head up high, for I've got a goal again, I've got to drive again. I'm gonna feel my heart coming alive again before the parade passes by. Look at that crowd up ahead. Listen and hear that brass harmony growing. Look at that crowd up ahead. Pardon me if my old spirit is showing. All of those lights over there seem to be telling me where I'm going. When the whistles blow and the cymbals crash and the sparklers light the sky, I'm gonna raise the roof, I'm gonna carry on. Give me an old trombone, give me an old baton before the parade passes by.
Woo! Yay!
Now, my concert series is called American Showstoppers, and this refers not only to the songs. The songs have to stop the show, that's the rule. But the performers, I like people who stop shows. And so I called Klea Blackhurst. And thank God she said yes, she's going to sing Jerry Herman at my concert, and here she is.
Thank you.
Hi, Klea.
How are you?
I'm good.
That was very exciting.
Yeah.
I don't want to argue with Michael Riedel, but I saw Leroy dancing at 42nd Street as well, and he was dancing on a dime. Just for the record, just for the record.
I almost said dime.
I know.
I can go back even further than that. I saw him in his first big New York job. I saw him in Oklahoma at Richard Rodgers' personally supervised production of Oklahoma in 1969.
You're the real deal, Leroy. Yeah. Yes.
So I've covered all of Leroy's career.
Yes,
and he's
we
pretty
love
well
it.
covered all of
Yeah.
mine. So one of the things I like to do, I do the hits and the concerts, but I also like to do songs that are less well known. Because every songwriter writes songs that are less well known, that are every bit as good as the ones that happen to become known. And Jerry Herman wrote this song for Ethel Merman when he was trying to get her to appear in Hello, Dolly, and she turned the show down for various reasons. So this song went out of the show. But he put it back in.
Well, she was the final Dolly in the original Broadway run. I think
Yeah.
the seventh the 7th choice after 13 times asking her. And she finally said, when he called this last time, she said, well, now that you got your previews out of the way, I'll come and I'll open your show.
Yeah, the show had been running 8 years or something like that.
So they thought it would be, she had heard rumors that there were these 2 songs written for her, and she went down, Jerry Herman played them, she loved them, and she wanted them both in the show, and David Merrick saw that as a great new selling point for the final 9-month run, which at the time allowed it to break the record as the longest running Broadway show in history.
But these songs have not been orchestrated since the original production and performed on a grand scale, as we're going to do on March 1st. But we thought we'd give you a little taste of what one of these songs was.
I've sliced my slice of life a little thin, haven't I, Ephraim? I've been on the outside looking in, haven't I, Ephraim? Well, from now on, Ephraim, all that, it's going to change. The world is full of wonderful things, a bushel of wonderful things for me to believe in. So world, take me back. I want to be part of the human race again and bid goodbye to all my trouble and tears. I've wasted so many odd years, it's time to get even. So world, take me back. I wanna let laughter light up my face again. No, no more peeking through the keyhole. I intend to have my own key. No more sneaking past the parlor. From now on, that's me sitting on the settee. For today's a day to holler about, for after just sitting life out since heaven knows when, my step has a spring and a drive. I'm suddenly young and alive. You wonderful world, take me back again. The world is full of Aprils and Junes, red roses and yellow balloons for me to hang on to. So world, take me back. I wanna be there in the good old days again. Whatever happened to those fabulous sights, those dancing the night away nights? Where have they gone? Oh world, take me back. I wanna be there when the gas lights blaze again. No, no more watching from the sidelines. I intend to star in the show. No more reaching for tomorrow. From now on, I stand with today in my hand. For today, the world is ripe as a peach. It's gonna be mine till I reach 110. My step has a spring and a drive. I'm suddenly young and alive. You wonderful world, take me back again. Thank you.
Come on back. Right. So that song Jerry wrote for Ethel Merman, who, if I'm not mistaken, was going to do Dolly originally, right? Before
Well, he
Carol?
wanted her to do it.
Right.
And she had just come off of Gypsy and did the national tour of Gypsy. I think that's what made her think she just needed a break, because she normally did not tour with her shows.
Right.
Gypsy, she made the exception.
She also never had a flop. So in her mind, it's like she would do the show, it would be a hit, she'd be stuck with it. You know what I mean? It didn't
Right,
occur
right,
to her
right.
like, will it work?
But also, didn't you tell me, Leroy, that she also was tired of she didn't get the movie The Gypsy, right?
That's right. And,
So
she said, you know, I put all the work into doing Broadway and then I never get the film. And she just wanted to try something else. She just didn't want to make a commitment to a year or two of her life into something anymore. She
and then have
wanted-
Barbara Streisand do
That's
the movie.
right. Hello, Dolly.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, precisely. So, all right, it is
Fred Barton.
Fred Barton, American Showstoppers, an evening of Jerry Herman,
At the-
March 1st.
The
what's the
Michael Schimmel Center at Pace University.
theater? And don't forget Klea's wonderful
Yeah, don't forget that.
everything
Make
the
sure you
traffic
take it
will
with
allow.
you, Michael.
I will.
Enjoy.
All right, can you play us out with a little something from?
Oh, sure. How about
Yeah, a little silent.
is there anything better? No.
Bravo! Thank
See you next time
Leroy.
on Theater
Thank you,
Talk.
Klea.
Thank you, Leroy.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Good night. Good night.
Our thanks to the Friends of Theater Talk for their significant contribution to this production. Theater Talk is made possible in part by the Frederick Lowe Foundation, the Corey and Bob Donnelly Charitable Fund, the Noel Coward Foundation, Carrie J. Fries, the Dorothy Strelson Foundation, plus public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs, the New York State Council on the Arts, a state agency, and the Theater Development Fund's Technical Accessibility Program, which helps provide closed captioning.
We welcome your questions or comments for Theater Talk. Thank you and good night.